And now I'm very pleased to introduce the next speaker, is Dr. Dennis Wheatley. You know that it is not so easy task to introduce Dr. Wheatley to audience, because he's absolutely a lot of his duties in different fields of research, editing, and administration. A lot of his duties in different fields of research, editing, and administrative duties maybe will take much time. And you know that support of Dr. Dennis has provided that our Russian Society for Cell Biology joined International Federation for Cell Biology, very famous international organization. And now I give the floor to Dr. Dennis Wheatley from United Kingdom.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased to be back in St. Petersburg. It's just a wonderful city. I've come here several times, and I find, in fact, here, I have even more colleagues, I believe, and people that I've worked and collaborated with, than even in the United Kingdom. So this is quite surprising. First of all, Academician Professor Dr. Nikolai Nikolsky, Vladimir Parfenyov, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased, in fact, to welcome everybody here on this very important occasion, 50th anniversary of this amazing institute. Now, it's called the Institute of Cytology, and cytology traditionally has been cell biology. It's confused often in the West with exfoliative cytology. But the institute here has been called the Institute of Cytology for some time. I think internationally we know it's the Institute of Cell Biology, and it's a very important one within the Russian Academy of Sciences. My involvement here is that I am the Secretary General of the International Federation for Cell Biology. Can we have the first slide? This is the International Federation of Biology's symbol. It's a logo that was designed by an artist called Dennis Wheatley. This is the journal, the logo of the journal Cell Biology International, which is the official journal of the Federation. And I know an awful lot of you have actually published in my journal, and I'm very thankful for that. Many of the contributions are outstanding. Now, as Professor Parfenyov said, some time back, when you had the Science Council of the Presidium in the party here, you had to, in fact, start a new Russian Society of Cell Biology. It had to have democratically elected members, it had to have a constitution, and it had to have members. Of course, you have plenty of members. It started off with only about 200 or 300 members, and I'm sure it's growing. And it has become part of the International Federation for Cell Biology. And I hope it plays an ever more important role in that field. I want to tell you briefly my involvement with the Institute. In fact, I'll tell you how I came to be here for the first time. Some years back, Professor Krylenko Sergei, paid me a visit, a surprise visit, in my lab in Scotland. And I wondered why he was coming. And there was a sort of tenuous connection between his work and my work. He had been visiting the Nobel Prize winner, Sir Andrew Huxley, in Cambridge, with whom he has worked over many years on muscle physiology, muscle contraction, mechanism of that. He came to me because in the T-tubules of muscle, you get little vacuoles forming during contraction at the top of the T-tubules. And I have been working with a colleague from Hungary, Henich Tamás. And we had shown that, in fact, vacuolization does occur in many, many cells in the body. And that even when the vacuolation becomes very intense, it isolates the nucleus and interrupts nuclear cytoplasmic flow and information. The cells die under these circumstances. Anyway, this is our tenuous connection. He stayed with me several days, and we had lots of discussions about many things, mostly about muscle vacuoles. I had, on the morning that he left my lab, my office, I had a visitor who came in unexpectedly and interrupted our final discussions for about 5 or 10 minutes. So guy was near the door looking at my shelves, and he suddenly looked and said, "But you have the translation by Manfred Halpern, by S. Halpern, of Nassanov's book." Can we have the next slide? Sorry, I should go back and tell you something about the National Federation, but that'll come in a minute. Anyway, the book, of course, was the translation of that book in 1959 that Nassanov wrote, that really has had very little exposure in the West, except through a few devotees like Gilbert Ling, Miklos Kelemeyer, and others. Well, as soon as Professor Kolenko saw this, he said, "Oh, but you must come to St. Petersburg, to our Institute of Cytology. The rest is history." And I've been back several times since. So I will return to the IFCB now. And IFCB's mission is simply this: to promote international cooperation and to contribute to the advancement of cell biology in all its branches. And all of you know how important cell biology, molecular biology, has been over the last 20 or so years, particularly in science, biology, general science, biology in particular, agriculture, horticulture, not to leave out one of the most important ones, which is medicine. Contributions are huge, as you've seen from stem cells, many other discoveries like that. Notice that a colleague from Cardiff has just been awarded the Nobel Prize for stem cell research. So, I'm Secretary General of this organisation. Can we have the next slide, please? Here is its website. Now, underneath I say, do not go to what you would imagine, IFCB organisation on your website. Go to this one, IFC Biol. Because if you go to this one, it's the International Federation for Christian Businessmen. Slightly different field. I want to make several proposals about the future of cell biology in the National Federation, where I hope to play more and more active role. My immediate proposal is this: if I can use this occasion and platform to do this, if we run an East-West, I'm talking about East Europe basically here, West symposium or workshop for about 2 or 3 days. And it should be on something which is very interesting, like the basis of Nassanov's work and how it relates to other work that's done in the United States, Western Europe, and so forth. And one of the subjects could be the emergence of cell theory and what cells are, in fact. And that's deep in the heart of what Nassanov was on about. And a friend, Professor Vladimir Matveyev, who's got a very official role today of videoing these presentations, actually came to me and said he wants to put onto the IFCB website, or that's where we decided to put it, a whole chronology from about the 16th century up emergent of cell theory. And I think it's worth all of you visiting it. But it could be the basis on which that symposium, that workshop, is based. I also want to leave you with a few other gifts, you might say. And one of them is that we had published in April in the Cell Biology International Journal a special issue attributed to this institute with about 14 papers in it, all excellent papers. That issue, all right, 6 months old now, but I don't think many of you can easily see it on the web because you can find it in Science Direct. But I asked Professor Parfenyov if he wanted some more copies in April, and he said, well, can we take another 5? So I brought him 50 more now. So I hope he distributes them where he thinks fit, but there are 50 hard copies available. We will see who gets them. Next, I want to tell you about Professor Nasanov's famous book, The Local Reaction of Protoplasm and Gradual Excitation, as I mentioned earlier. It was translated by Wes Helpern, and it is now not just translated, it has just been transformed by my daughter Nina into a file, a digital file, which can now be put online and downloaded. We have one job to do, and that's to fit all the figures in. And Professor Matlaev and myself will be doing that, I hope, not just in the next few days, but it'll take a little longer than that. But then you'll have the whole book online. Well, once we get permission to have it online from the National Institute of Health in America. The next thing I want to mention is that you have an associate to this institute, who's Professor Yakov Gal. That's very interesting because there's a J. Gal, Professor J. Gal here, one of the most eminent professors in the United States is Professor J. Gould. So it's a very interesting coincidence of names. However, Yasha is a historian of science. He's written an extremely good, brilliant book on Julian Huxley. Julian Huxley was a famous British scientist who visited Russia on several occasions. He eventually became the first General Secretary of UNESCO. Yasha's book is written by a Russian about a British scientist of some eminence. It's very interesting because many books have been written on Huxley, but not from a Russian perspective. And I think that is its forte. It is extremely interesting to hear how other people see a person like that. Well, we've actually finished the whole book in e-form. It will be an e-book online. It's finished, it's ready to be put up. All we've got to do is find the site we're going to put it up. And then you can all read it, or rather, not you all read it here in Russia, because I'm sure all of you have read it. But everybody else can read it around the world, and that's very important. Finally, I just want to mention my alma mater. Well, I come from the University of London originally, but the workplace where I worked for over 40 years in Scotland, and that's the University of Aberdeen. Let me just finish the slides we've got here. That's Nasnov's book. Okay, and the next one, please. And this is the University of Aberdeen. This is my own little badge. I've always worked on centrioles, they're fascinating. But if you look at this, the University of Aberdeen, I don't know if any of you can see in this corner the emblem, the badge of the University of Aberdeen. But look at this, 1495. In 1995, we held the 500th anniversary of the university. Now this institute is 10 times younger, but I do hope that it goes on from strength to strength. But I won't be back here in 450 years' time to see how brilliant it's doing and have another big celebration. But thank you for listening to me very attentively, and I wish the conference well, and as I said, I wish the Institute all strength for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. dear Dennis, our old friend, thank you very much. I would like to say you that it's due to support of Dr. Wheatley, is editor-in-chief of Cell Biology International. We received this absolutely wonderful special issue devoted 50th anniversary of our institute. And thank you very much for this extra copies of this issue. I know that it is not easy for you to take such very heavy, Thank you very much.